welcome back, Algebra 2 students, to another Regents review video. This is the Algebra 2 Common Core exam for the August 2016 administration. Oh yeah, we got lots of work to do. These are going to be the solutions to Part 1, questions 1 through 15 of this exam. These are the second half questions of the multiple choice section. Before we begin, as usual, and I'll say this every time, do not cheat off of these videos. It is not worth it because you need to do the problems by yourself first, or at least attempt them. And if you're having trouble, then you come here. If you're here to check your answers, you come to the right place. Hit that subscribe button down below. Consider becoming a patron on my Patreon page and visit my website at www.nysmathreadingsprep.com. The Patreon and the website to, well, the link to my website are both in the description below. Both those links are down in the description. And I use the TI Inspire CX calculator. This link could also be found on my website. It is the most powerful tool you will ever have in Algebra 2, and if you're taking upper level math, this calculator will be incredibly helpful to you. Without further ado, enough of my chit chat. Let's go on to question number 13. Here we go. An equation to represent the value of a car after T months of ownership is V equals 32,000 times 0.81 raised to the T divided by 12. Which statement is not correct? Okay. Choice 1 says the car lost approximately 19% of its value each month. Okay, well, where are they getting this 19% from? Well, if you look in here, right, 0.81 is always equal to 1 minus the rate. Remember, again, it's going to come back over and over and over again. A of t is equal to the principal times 1 plus or minus the rate raised to the t power. This inside is the 1 minus the rate. And the reason why it's minus is because the car is depreciating. The car always depreciates when you buy it. Unless you have a vintage car or a mint condition car that's really rare, then that would appreciate, but most cars depreciate. Okay? So we know that the rate it's decreasing by 19%. So they got that right. The car lost approximately 19% of its value. But here's the problem. Each month. That means, ladies and gentlemen, after 1 year, the car is worth nothing. Nothing. That makes no sense. Each month? No. What that should say is each year. It should say year. But they tried to trick you with this 1 divided by 12. They were trying to make you think that this function is in months. No, this function is in years. You take the amount of months and divide it by the amount of months there are in a year. That's why your answer is going to be choice 1. Let's take a look at choice 2, 3, and 4 just to show why those are not the answer. Choice 2 says the car maintained approximately 98% of its value each month. Yes. The correct answer for this one is the car lost approximately 2% of its value each month. That's correct. It lost 2% of its value each month. So that's where they're getting that 98% from. It maintained 98%, meaning it's decreasing by 2% each month. So that's true. The value of the car when it was purchased was $32,000. Yeah, that's the principal. That's the initial amount. Choice 4 says the value of the car 1 year after it was purchased is worth $25,920. Yeah, if you take 1 year and you plug it in, but you have to plug in 12, remember, because T is the time in months. If you plug in 12, you're going to get $25,920. So that's true. Your answer is choice 1. All right, that makes no sense. Number 14, which equation represents an odd function? So what you need to know is an odd function is the same, or it maintains itself, is the same when a rotation of 180 degrees is performed. This, ladies and gentlemen, it also means symmetric through the origin. Okay? So what's nice about my software that I use is I could actually show you by flipping it around. So if I were to graph these answers, let's graph y equals sine of x first, okay? If I go to my graph page and I type in sine of x, right? Okay, there it is. Now, let's see if this is an odd function. It's going to get a little dark here. 1 second. I'm actually going to copy this. Oh, sorry if that hurt your ears. I should really silence that. So let me send it over here. And here we go. So what you're trying to find is whether or not that this is an odd function, okay? And remember what I just said. An odd function means that you could rotate it 180 degrees and still maintain the same graph. So this is just itself at 0 degrees. And if I rotate it 180 degrees around, look at that. It looks the same as it did before. It's the same thing. It looks like a sine curve. It's going up, then down, then up, then down. And if you look over here, it's going up, then down, then up, then down. So sine is an odd function. It is symmetric through the origin, and when you rotate it 180 degrees, you get the same graph. By the way, all you need to do, see, I could do this by on my computer, but all you need to do is you need to hold your calculator and literally flip it upside down and see if it's the same. That's how you tell if it is an odd function. Okay? So your answer for number 14 is choice 1. Moving on to question 15. When the completely factored form of 2d to the 4th plus 6d to the 3rd minus 18d squared minus 54d is what? So first things first, you need to know the order of factoring is your greatest common factor, followed by the difference of two perfect squares, followed by the trinomial method, okay? And if that doesn't work, then what you do is you need to do the group factoring method. In this case, we are going to pull out a GCF first, then we're going to group factor because it's 4 terms. So the GCF in this case is 2d, okay? And you are left with d to the 3rd plus 3d squared minus 9d minus 27, okay? So now let's go ahead and group factor these. Remember, group factor means you split them up, take out the GCF, and then you're going to combine those later. I'll explain. So you have 2d. I'm going to put a bracket here because a bracket kind of separates it. So put a bracket. Your GCF of this is d squared. You're left with d plus 3. The GCF over here is negative 9. You're left with d plus 3. Remember that these need to be the same and double check. If you take negative 9 and you redistribute, do you get back to the original? And yes, you do. Okay? So we get this. So now what we're going to do is we are going to combine these over here. So when we group factor, we combine this and this, and we only take one of these. We don't write 2 of them. We only write one of them. So we get 2d, d squared minus 9, d plus 3. We're almost there. This is not factored completely yet. Now this right here is the difference of 2 perfect squares. So do it. We get d plus 3, d minus 3, d plus 3. But now there's 2 d plus 3s. We got the one from the difference of 2 perfect squares, and we got the d plus 3 over here. So we could actually combine these to give us 2d, d plus 3 squared, d minus 3. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your answer to that question. 2d, d plus 3 squared, d minus 3. That answer is choice 3. All right, and that's how you do it. Moving on to 16. Which diagram shows an angle rotation of 1 radian on the unit circle? So, what is 1 radian? Now remember, we're always used to working with degrees. Okay, degrees, we like degrees because we did it in geometry. So 1 radian, we can convert radians to degrees by multiplying by 180 over pi. So I'm going to take 1 radian, and I'm going to multiply it by 180 over pi. Okay? If you do this, it's just 180 over pi. 1 times 180 is 180. Divide that by pi. Go to your calculator. Type in 180 divided by pi. And you get 57.29. So your answer is 57.2 degrees. Okay, so we're looking for the graph that shows 57.2 degrees. Remember that there are 360 degrees in a circle. So 57.2 degrees terminates in quadrant 1. Okay, terminates in quadrant. I should really write a Roman numeral. It terminates in quadrant 1. Well, this is about 57-ish. This shows 180 degrees. That doesn't make sense. This shows a 90-degree rotation. And this shows a full 360. So your answer is choice 1. Not too bad, right? This shows pi over 2 radians. If you want these in radian measure, this shows pi over 2 radians. This shows 2 pi radians, and this shows pi radians. This is 1 radian, okay? Don't get confused with radians and pies. Radian does not mean pi, okay? Number 17. This one is a doozy. Just a lot of work. 17 says the focal length, f, of a camera's lens is related to the distance of the object from the lens, j, and the distance to the image area in the camera, w, by the formula below. When this equation is solved for j in terms of f and w, j is what? So here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. You want this. You want to solve for j. Okay? But what we need to do is we need to find a least common denominator first. Okay? So the least common denominator is everything, j, w, and f. Now remember how we do this. We multiply each fraction by what we need. Okay? So if I rewrite this, 1 over j plus 1 over w equals 1 over f, right? We multiply only by what we need. Take a look at, I'm going to change a different color here. Take a look at the first one, the first fraction. We have a j. We only need a w and an f. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by a w and an f. W and an f. The second fraction, we have a w. We only need a j and an f to get the least common denominator. So a j and an f, a j and an f. For the f, we only need a j and a w. So multiply jw, multiply by jw. By the way, what you do to the bottom, you must do to the top of the fraction. So now we have wf over jwf plus jf over jwf is equal to jw over jwf. Remember, when you get the least common denominator to be the same, that wipes out completely. Solve this at the top. So now we could easily solve for j. Let's do it. So we have wf plus jf equals jw. Now we got a problem here. We have a j over here and a j over here. We got to somehow get those together, okay? And eventually we're going to use factoring, okay? So how do we do it? I'm going to move that jf, my apologies. I'm going to move that jf to the right-hand side, okay? So we get wf is equal to jw minus jf, okay? Now to solve for j, what you're going to do is you're going to pull out the j and you're left with w minus f, okay? Because j is a GCF here. So we're almost there. All we need to do is divide by w minus f. Divide by w minus f. Your answer is j equals wf over w minus f, or it could be j equals fw over w minus f, because multiplication is commutative, so it has to be one of those answers. When we look back, your answer is choice 3. W minus f, it has to be w minus f, but it could be wf or fw. In this case, they chose fw as the numerator. And your answer is choice 3. Moving on to number 18. The sequence a sub 1 equals 6 and a sub n equals 3, a sub n minus 1 can be written as what? So here's the thing here. They are telling you a recursive sequence. These here, ladies and gentlemen, are explicit. Explicit. Okay? So the problem is you might be prone to pick choice 1 immediately because it shows the first term is 6 and then a 3 raised to the n power. But what we need to do is we need to generate the first couple terms, okay? Let's generate the first term. The very first term. We know that the first term has to be 6. Let's plug in 1 for n and let's see what it gives us. We get 6 times 3 to the first. Well, 3 to the first is 3. What's 6 times 3? 18. That's a sub 1. Nope, we need it to be 6. That can't work. Let's take a look at choice 2. A sub n equals 6 times 3 to the n plus 1. Well, n, we're going to make it 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, so we get 6 times 3 squared. That's 3 times 3, which is 9. So 6 times 9, that gives you an answer of 54. That's a sub 1. That is not 6. Let's take a look at choice 3. 2 times 3 to the first power. Okay, so we get 2 times 3, which is 6. That's a sub 1. Let's make sure it's not 6 for this one. 2 times 3 to the n plus 1. So we get 2 times 3 squared. That's 2 times 9. That equals 18. That's a sub 1. That can't work. Your answer is choice 3. See how such a simple... You got to think, not logically. You need to be a smart thinker. You see how easy that was just by pulling out the important information. You know that the first term is 6. Plug in 1 for n, and let's see which one gives you 6. Choice 3 is the only one that works, ladies and gentlemen. All right, moving on to number 19. Which equation represents the set of points equidistant from line L and point R shown on the graph below? So this is a classic focused directrix question. So you need to know what each one is. So line L, okay, line L represents what's called the directrix. And the directrix of a quadratic is equidistant to the vertex and the focus. So the vertex is in right smack dab in the middle of the directrix and the focus. Okay? So the vertex is actually right here because this is 2 units and this is 2 units. Okay? So we know that the vertex is right here. We know that for sure. So this is the vertex. I'm going to put it in a different color. We know that this is the vertex, which is the point 2, -1. Vertex. This point over here, this is called your focus. Okay? So, now we just got to figure out, well, which one is the proper quadratic. Well, here's the thing. The quadratic can never go cut through the directrix. It's impossible. Can't do it. So we know that the parabola has to be going something like this, like a downward fashion. Okay? The focus, remember, the focus is always inside the parabola, and the directrix is always outside of the parabola. So, we know a couple things. If the vertex is 2, -1, and we know that the vertex form of a quadratic is y equals x minus h squared plus k, which you could have a constant out here, but we know that the vertex has to be 2, -1. So let's go ahead and plug in 2 for h. So we get y equals x minus 2 squared. What this says, this represents a horizontal shift to the right by 2 units, minus the value of 1. Okay, we're almost there. But remember, the constant out front is 1 over 4p. Okay? Well, in this case, well, what is your value of p? Well, you need to know that the... Well, we don't have p. We got to find it. You need to know a couple things. The directrix. The directrix can be represented as y equals k minus p. The focus can be represented as y equals k plus p. Okay? And the vertex can be represented as h comma k. We know the value of k. It's -1. Plug in -1 into k and solve for p. Here we go. So, and we also have our y value. The y value in this case is it's 1, right? Because this line is y equals 1. Beautiful. So we have 1 equals, the k value is -1, so we have -1 minus p. And down here, the focus, well, y is still 1. So 1 is equal to the value of k, -1 plus p. All right, let's go ahead and solve for p. So we get, when we add those up, let me bring it down here. When we add those up, we get 2 equals -2. No, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. I did something wrong here. Do we have that k value? No, I'm sorry. We could just... Oh, we don't even need to set up a system of equations, folks. We could just solve it right here, right now. Let's do it. Add the 1 on both sides. We get 2 equals -p. P equals -2. Easy peasy. Nice. So we know that the p is -2, so therefore your coefficient out front is 1 over -8. 4 times -2, -8. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is your answer to that question. Your answer is choice 4. Now I'm going to show you a really neat way to check yourself in the calculator. Go to your graph page, okay? I'm going to type in our answer, -1/8 times x minus 2 quantity squared minus 1. we get this, right? If you go on your menu page, go to Menu, go to Analyze Graph, go to Analyze Conics, then click on Directrix, and click on the parabola. Look at what you get. You get y equals 1. Then do it again. Menu, Analyze Graph, Analyze Conics, then click on foci, or that's a focus, okay? And look at that. They tell you the focus, and they tell you the directrix. Doesn't that match what we're given? Yep, we're good to go. Number 20. Mr. Farson gave his class the 3 mathematical rules shown below to either prove or disprove. Which rules can be proved for all real numbers? Okay, so we just got to basically check and see if this equals this, and this equals this, and this equals this. Let's do it. So, for this case, we're just going to square it, okay? And we're going to FOIL as much as possible. So, for option 1, we get m plus p times m plus p. When you FOIL this, we get m squared plus 2mp plus p squared. Does that match what's given up here? Yes, it does. So we know that option 1 is correct so far. So get rid of choice 3. Now let's check choice, or option 2, I should say. Okay, we have y plus 3 cubed. So that means we're going to be foiling twice. Okay, x plus y cubed. The reason why is we do x plus y, x plus y, x plus y. Get this through your heads, peoples. You cannot triple distribute. That's impossible. You got to do it 2 at a time. So what we need to do is FOIL this first. So we get x squared plus 2y plus 2xy, I should say. X squared plus 2xy plus y squared. And now we multiply by x plus y, and we distribute again. Okay? That's the proper way to do it. So, we get, let's see here. We get x to the third plus 2x squared y plus xy squared plus x squared y plus 2xy squared. Need more room. Plus y to the third. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't even combine like terms. Does that equal that? Nope. Can't happen. Wrong. Let's go to option 3. Now, option 3, the easiest way is to FOIL this and then solve this by itself. So, we get a squared plus b squared squared. Square that, see what you get. So we get a squared plus b squared, a squared plus b squared. FOIL it out. We get a to the 4th plus 2a squared b squared plus b to the 4th. Now what we're going to do is we're going to verify that this equals a squared minus b squared squared plus 2ab squared. Oh my god. So we get a squared minus b squared squared plus 2ab squared. Let's go ahead and solve this. So we get a squared minus b squared, a squared minus b squared, plus 2ab squared, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to FOIL this. So we get a to the 4th minus 2a squared b squared plus b to the 4th plus 4a squared b squared. Okay? So now let's just combine like terms. That 2a squared b squared can combine to the 4a squared b squared. We get a to the 4th plus 2a squared b squared plus b to the 4th. Does that equal what we're given up top? Yes, it does. Both of those equal. We're in good shape. Option 3 is a good answer. So we know that the answer is going to be choice 4 for that question. Choices 1 and 2 make no sense. And that's how you do that question. Moving on to number 21. The graph of p of x is shown below. What is the remainder? What is a remainder when p of x, remember this is p of x, is divided by x plus 4? Okay, this is testing your knowledge on synthetic division and the remainder theorem. Okay, so this really tests your knowledge on the remainder theorem. You could use synthetic division, but unfortunately they don't give you a polynomial equation to use synthetic division. So they're asking you to apply your knowledge of the remainder theorem. if your factor, remember, this is a factor. Your factor is x plus 4. That means that your root is x is equal to negative 4. Is the root x equals negative 4 on this graph? Yep. So if your root x equals negative 4 is there, the factor is x plus 4. What happens when you divide this entire polynomial divided by one of its roots? You get the remainder of 0. Your answer for this question, ladies and gentlemen, is choice 3. All right? Because since x plus 4 is a factor of p of x, the remainder is 0. Okay? X plus 4 is a factor, the remainder is 0. 22. A payday loan company makes loans between $100 and $1,000 available to customers. Every 14 days, customers are charged 30% interest with compounding. In 2013, Remy took out a $300 payday loan. Which expression could be used to calculate the amount she would owe in dollars after 1 year if she did not make any payments? First of all, her credit would suck. By the way, if you are watching these videos and you do have a credit card, make sure that you make your payments on time because you don't want bad credit. Not a good thing. Anyway, so Remy took out $300. $300, right? So that is your initial amount. Well, that doesn't help us because all of these are $300. Now, you should know by now, interest means that you're increasing in value. Not your interest. The bank is making money. Because if you take out a loan, the bank immediately charges you interest and they want their money. So they want to make a profit. Even though that you took out $300, you're going to be paying a lot more than $300 back to the bank, called interest. So this decreasing stuff, this decreasing garbage, no way. Let me tell you something. If interest was decreasing, I'd be taking out loans left and right because then I would be not paying. You wouldn't need to pay the banks back. So those two answers are wrong. So now it's all down to the exponents. Is it 14 over 365 or 365 over 14? Well, every 14 days out of the year. So it's actually 365 days in a year divided by 14. This is equal to the amount of payments she needs to make. Okay? So we take the amount of days in a year divided by the 14 days per payment. This is equal to the amount of payments. So Remy, if she made her payments, but she didn't, she had to make a total of 26 payments throughout the course of the year. So your answer for this one is choice 4. That is the amount of dollars she would owe if she did not pay anything. Because she owes 26 payments from that equation. What else? Number 23. I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this question. One algebraically, the other one graphically. So here we go. Which value is not contained in the solution of the system shown below? Now, teachers might teach this differently. What I do when I see three equations with 3 variables is I immediately circle the top 2 equations and I circle the bottom 2 equations. This is the elimination method. You're eliminating one variable, then you're eliminating another variable. Then when you get down to one variable, you're going to solve it and you're going to back substitute. If you have no idea what I just said, I'll be more than happy to explain it to you. So we are first going to combine the blue equations that you see here. So what is a plus 4a? Let's just 5a. What is 5b plus 5b plus a negative 5b? Well, that cancels, so it's nothing. What is negative c plus 4c? That's just 3c. What is negative 20 plus 19? Negative 1. Okay, let's find the red equation. The red equation is, let's see, 4a plus a negative a is 3a. Negative 5b plus a negative 5b is a negative 10b. And 4c minus 5c, that's a negative c, that equals 21. Okay? So here's the problem, folks. We canceled out the b's in this equation, correct? We have to cancel out the b's in this equation. So, unfortunately, we can't use that. What we got to do is we need to manipulate one of these equations to cancel out that 5b, one of those 5b's. So I'm going to multiply the bottom equation by a negative 1. I'm going to multiply the bottom one by a negative 1. I'm going to distribute. Your new equation is a plus 5b plus 5c equals negative 2. So we're going to take this new equation and add it to the middle one. So when you add it, 4a plus a is 5a. Negative 5b plus 5b. Ooh, that cancels. Sweet, we wanted that. 4c plus 5c, that's just 9c, equals, let's see, 19 plus negative 2 is 17. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to take this equation and this equation, and we're going to eliminate another variable. Okay, so I'm going to set these up. So we have 5a plus 3c equals negative 1, 5a plus 9c equals 17. I'm going to get rid of the a's because the a's are easier to get rid of. I don't want to get rid of the c's because then you got to multiply this by a negative 3. I don't want bigger numbers. I want to multiply this by a negative 1. Let's do it. If we multiply that by a negative 1, 5a plus 3c equals negative 1. That stays the same. And this will become negative 5a minus 9c equals negative 17. Those 5a's and negative 5a's wipe out. We get negative 6c equals negative 18. Divide by negative 6. And we get c is equal to positive 3. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we got one of the numbers. Now what we're going to do is we are going to back substitute. Meaning, we take the value of c and we're going to plug it into one of our equations that we found. So you could either plug into any of these, this one, or yeah, that's it. So here's the thing, folks. You do not want, and you got to be smart about this, you do not want to plug in the value of c equals 3 back into one of these. Because again, you're still left with two variables. You're left with an a and a b. Not happening. So what you want to do is be smart about it. Take the c equals 3 and plug it back into one of the green equations that's highlighted. Because it's just an a and a c, so we can easily solve for a. I like this one because I don't like big numbers over there. So I'm going to plug it in over here. So we get 5a plus 3 times 3 equals negative 1. 5a plus 9 equals negative 1. Subtract that 9. We get 5a equals negative 10. Divide by the 5 on both sides, and we get a is equal to negative 2. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take the a value and the c value, and you're going to pick one of these equations up here and plug it in. I'm going to pick the bottom one because that looks a little bit simpler to use. So let's do it. We get the following. We get negative a, so it's negative 2 when we plug it in, minus 5b, minus 5c, times 3. That equals 2. Positive 2 minus 5b minus 15 equals 2. Combined like terms. Negative 13 minus 5b equals 2. Add that 13 on both sides. We get negative 5b is equal to 15. Divide by that negative 5 on both sides. And we get b is equal to positive 3. So, ladies and gentlemen, your answer to this system of equations is negative 2, 3, and 3. Which number is not included in any of these? No, I'm sorry. That should be a negative 3. Because I divided by a negative 5. My apologies. Negative 3. So we got negative 3, 3, and negative 2. Which number does not work? Number 2. 2 is not an answer to the system of equations. So that's how you do it the algebraic way. Let's just say you were either crunching for time or you don't know how to do it. But you need to know how to do this because it's on almost every Regents. It's getting there. It comes up like once every other exam. I'm going to help you out here. Go to your graphing calculator. Go to Menu. Go to Algebra. And go to Solve System of Linear Equations. Okay? It's going to give you this prompt here. We have 3 equations. And just because they gave it an A, B, and C, I'm going to type in A, comma, B, comma, C. I don't want to get confused, so I'm going to type in A, B, and C. Click OK. So we get A plus 5B minus C equals negative 20. So if you're sitting there without this calculator and you're thinking to yourself, is he actually going to type in these equations and get the answer? Then he's insane. Well, yeah, I'm going to get the answer. Sorry to say. So make sure that you get this calculator. It is a powerful tool. All right, so we're almost done. Now, here's the thing here. With this stuff. If you typed in x's... No, I'm sorry. If you left this as x, comma, y, comma, z, and you typed in a's, b's, and c's, it's going to give you a big error message. You need to make sure that your letters are the same. So just keep that in the back of your brain. Click enter. Ta-da. And 2 is not there. So your answer is choice 2. Last question of the video. 24. In 2010, the population of New York State was approximately 19,378,000 people, with an annual growth rate of 1.5%. Assuming the growth rate is maintained for a large number of years, which equation can be used to predict the population of New York State T years after 2010? So, it's increasing by a rate of 1.5. So that means, okay. So if you're looking at choices 1 and 3, that is, again, a of t equals the principal times 1 plus the rate raised to the t. The reason why it's plus, you're increasing the amount of people. So your answer should be a of t equals the principal, which is 19,378,000 times 1 point. If you move this back, is 1.015 to the t power. This doesn't show it. This doesn't show it. For some reason, it says t minus 1. No, because if you plug in the number 1, right? If you plug in the number 1, you get 0. Well, anything raised to the 0 power is 1. Hold on one second. Let me just double check here. If you plug in 1 for the first year. No, I'm sorry. If you plug in 0, right? Because if you want to find the initial amount, time equals 0, right? If you plug in t equals 0, that gives you a negative number. And if you multiply these two numbers, it doesn't equal the initial amount. So that can't work either. Okay? So it can't be choices 1 or 3. Now we're down to the recursion stuff. So the initial amount is fine, but now we're just figuring out, which one it is. Okay? So take a look here. This equation shows that you're adding on an additional over 19 million people plus a rate of increase. Huh? That makes no sense. Why are you adding on an additional 19 million people? That's an insane growth. That's very, very rapid. You'll reach 1 billion in no time. Your answer is choice 4. It's showing 1.015 increase, which I just said over here, times the previous term. So this is just showing recursion. Okay? This is showing recursion, and this would be the correct answer if it was the explicit form. Unfortunately, none of those answers are here, so your answer has to be choice 4 for that question. All right, that is the conclusion of this video. I hope it was helpful to you. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. It will really help me out. Consider becoming a patron on my Patreon page. I will greatly appreciate it if you would. That link is found in the description below. And visit my website at www.nysmath3dspepcot.com. I can't talk. For more math content in Algebra 2 and your future mathematical subjects in your high school future and possibly in college. And I'll see you soon.